What's going on, everybody? David here, back with another video. So we're going to talk about the next stimulus. So the next stimulus is the infrastructure bill. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about bipartisanship. So what does this mean now? We hear a lot of talk of bipartisanship. Does it mean that Congress, they come together, or is this one of those things where we're looking at the population as a whole? So we'll talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about student loans. Right now, Congress is holding a hearing, and they're talking about the whole student loan debate. Should they be forgiven? So that's what we're going to talk about. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please hit the like button. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. Okay, so let's go to the student loans first and talk a little bit about this. So I'm kind of on the fence when it comes to this topic. And we've heard President Biden talk about the fact that he wants to do some type of forgiveness. So either $10,000 or $50,000. So if you owe student loans, and then give you $10,000 to go towards that, or $50,000 to go towards that debt. And when you look at this and just look at schools in general, I think colleges are way overpriced, and everything about college is expensive. You buy books, they're expensive. Room and board is expensive, and tuition is expensive. And so when people get out of college, they're in debt. And some people are in debt $50,000. Some people might be in debt $150,000. And it takes years to pay that off. So as soon as you get out of college, you don't have a job, you're looking for work, and you're already in debt. So that can have a major effect on what you do next, as far as, can you get a job that you really want, or do you have to get a job just so you can start paying your student loans off? Now, they do have different programs where you can do forbearance and things like that, so you don't have to pay it right away. However, you still have that debt to pay. And I just paid my student loans off last year. And so it does take some time. I graduated in '98, and I just paid my student loans off last year. So the reason that I'm kind of on the fence here when it comes to this whole debate is because I did pay my student loans off. And so now people who have not paid their student loans off, they're going to get this $10,000, or they might get this $50,000 to pay off their student loans. And so what about the people who went ahead and paid their student loans off? They've been paying all these years, and then they went ahead, paid it off. They're not going to get anything out of this deal. And I actually paid my student loans off a little bit early because I was in forbearance for a little bit. I decided to pay it off a little bit early. And we know all last year there was a forbearance. So I didn't even have to pay it off last year, but I decided to do that. And so I think that is kind of sending the wrong message to people who are paying off their student loans. Some people might think, well, we're going to get this $10,000 or we're going to get this $50,000 to pay towards our student loans, so why should I pay my student loans? Or the other thing, which I think is even a bigger deal, is the fact that if these student loans are being forgiven, then colleges will say, well, you know what? The student loans are being forgiven, so now we can raise the prices even higher. And if we raise the prices higher, the justification can be, you could still go to our college, even if you rack up $200,000 in student loans, the government will pay for some of that or all of that. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at things. If they do this forgiveness, now you're looking at a situation where schools might raise their rates. So that wouldn't be good for the American people, or the American people who are in college, they'll be thinking that, well, I don't have to worry about it. The federal government's going to step up and they are going to give us some type of forgiveness. And so it's a real sticky subject. I don't know exactly how they're going to handle this. I know President Biden was talking about the $10,000. You do have some progressive lawmakers that are talking about $50,000. I don't know exactly how they're going to go about this, but I would at least think that if you want to do something like this, you do have people who paid off their student loans early. Those people who paid off their student loans early, they should have some type of tax credit or something like that they can apply to when they file their taxes, at least to give them a little something back for the fact that they paid off their student loans early instead of waiting and having the $10,000 credit or the $50,000 credit. So we'll have to see what they do with this, but it's one of those things where I don't know. Like I said, I'm on the fence. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing because schools are just way overpriced, and they really need to reevaluate that whole situation. I'm also for when we're talking about the community colleges, make community colleges free. I think that would cut some of the cost, because instead of paying to go to community college, now you can go to community college, get your first 2 years in, and then transfer to a 4-year college and do only 2 years because you've already done 2 years. So now you're only paying the cost of 2 years instead of paying the cost of 4 years at a 4-year college. So we'll have to see where this goes, but this is one of those situations where I don't know exactly how I feel about it, but I want to know how you guys feel about it. So in the comment section, let me know down below. And the last thing I want to mention when it comes to the student loans, now President Biden doesn't know exactly how he's going to move forward with this. He doesn't know if he wants to put it in this infrastructure bill, one of the infrastructure bills that they're talking about doing right now, or if he wants to do an executive order. So we're going to have to follow it and see what he does with this. If he does the executive order, obviously he can do it tomorrow. However, if he puts it in the infrastructure bill, it might take a couple months in order for us to see that implemented. All right, so now let's talk about this infrastructure bill. So we know this infrastructure bill is probably going to get approved within the next couple of months. And now Congress has returned. So now they're going to start debating this whole issue of infrastructure. What is infrastructure? Should it be just roads and bridges, or should we add some social programs to that as well? And so that's what we're going to start seeing. But we already started hearing, and so the Democrats have pretty much, Biden has his proposal out there. The Democrats are kind of siding with that, and the lawmakers are going to have to create something. But we've heard from the other side. We've heard from some Republicans how they want to move forward with this. Now, the big fight right now is how to pay for this. So there's two fights: how to pay for it, and then the other thing is what's going to be in it. Okay, so you have Republicans saying, look, this infrastructure bill, we want it roads, bridges, airports. We don't want to put these social programs in there. And then we had President Biden yesterday say, you know what, I'm open to this. So if you want to make it smaller, we can make it smaller, but we will add some of this other stuff later. And when I say later, I mean maybe in a different bill. And so that's what they're really talking about right now. And then we also have to talk about how to pay for it. And so you have Republicans saying we don't want to raise that corporate tax rate. Okay, they're pretty much against that. I have heard some Republicans in the House say, well, we could raise the corporate tax on larger corporations, but not the smaller corporations. So that's another argument there. I don't know exactly how they would differentiate between large and small. Most mom and pop, like real small restaurants and stuff like that, they're not corporations. So I don't know exactly how they would move forward with that. But nonetheless, I've heard that talk. Another thing that I've heard is don't raise it up to 28%, but only raise it up to 25%. And so that's another talking point that you're hearing. You're hearing that from Senator Manchin, who's a Democrat, who's not really comfortable with this 28% corporate tax rate. And then the last thing that I'm hearing coming from lawmakers, and this is not good for the American people, is a gas tax. So add a gas tax to build this infrastructure, which would mean that we would all have to pay for it. So it's not going to be a corporate tax rate increase. It's going to be everybody that's going to have to play their part and pay into this. So then we would be looking at a situation where pretty much the American people are going to be paying for this infrastructure bill, and it's not going to be corporations. So corporations will be able to find a way to get out of paying. Now, they will pay per vehicle. They're going to have to pay for gas, but usually what they will do is they're going to transition that payment right to the American people, because if it costs more to ship something out to you, they're just going to raise the price of whatever that product is. And so you're going to have to pay for it on that end, as well as you're going to have to pay this gas tax. So it will be interesting to see how they move forward. But this is what's being talked about right now, actually taxing everyone, which is something that you don't normally hear from the Republican side, but now you're hearing it because they don't want to mess with the corporate tax rate. Although most corporations are not paying 21%. Their effective tax rate is more like 4%, 5%. So now we're talking about they're paying 4 or 5%, or some corporations aren't paying anything in taxes when it comes to corporate tax. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes and how they handle it and how they pay for it. But the vast majority of the American people do want this infrastructure bill. And so now let's talk a little bit about bipartisanship. Because what I'm hearing a lot, and you're seeing politicians go back and forth, and they're saying, the Democrats saying that they want it to be bipartisan, or at least President Biden saying he wants it to be bipartisan, but they're also talking about the budget reconciliation, so just moving with a majority vote. And then you have Republicans on the other side saying we want to negotiate, we want it to be bipartisan, but they're really not bringing anything to the table. So if you're not bringing anything to the table, then how can it be bipartisan when we don't know what you want? So that's another argument. And then the American people, they want it. So my question is, if the American people want this, if they want this infrastructure bill, there's a majority of the American people want it, does that make it bipartisan? Not looking at the politicians, because you're going to have politicians on either side, and they're going to say that they're against it only because the other side is for it. And that's what happens. A Democrat comes up with an idea, Republicans automatically don't like it. If Republicans come up with an idea, Democrats automatically don't like it. And then you might have a few that are in the middle that can go either way, but the vast majority of the Democrats and the Republicans, they're against each other's ideas. And the main reason for that is because they want to win power. So if you want to win power, if someone else has a good idea and you support that idea, it just makes them stronger, right? And so you're going to want to be against what they want to do because you want your own idea to get out there and you want your own idea to be successful. And so with the two-party system that we have right now, it's just not, it's not going to work when you say, well, we want to be bipartisan, because the reality is these politicians are not representing the people that they are elected to represent. And we saw that in this last stimulus package. You saw that last stimulus package go through. Vast majority of the American people wanted that stimulus package. But guess what? No Republican voted for it. Not one Republican voted for this last stimulus package, but the vast majority of the American people wanted it. So there's no representation there. And so that's where the problem comes when you talk about bipartisanship. If you really want bipartisanship, then we should see these same politicians looking at their constituents and saying, you know what, my constituents want it, so I'm going to vote for it. But we're not seeing that. So I want to know what you guys think about this bipartisanship. So let me know down below. Do you think we should be in a situation where we should be listening to the people and answering to the people and not answering to what these politicians are trying to throw out there and say, well, this is the reason that I'm for it, or this is the reason that I'm against it? What do you guys think about that? So let me know down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.